Not everyone who offers you a ride wants to take you to your destination. He might want to take you to his destination. My name is Layla, and I'm 18 years old. Nothing used to stand out in my life except for its repetitive routine. Everything was the same. The days passed slowly, and silence filled the corners of the house, like a permanent guest that never leaves. But that night I'm going to tell you about broke everything. It tore my reality apart and left me living in my own shadow, trembling from memories that won't die. I had started working only a week ago in a fancy clothing store located on one of the quiet city streets. Not fancy with glitter or rich customers, but fancy in appearance. Its wide glass front always shone, and the mannequins behind it wore soft fabrics and beautiful dresses. Everything in it was extremely elegant. I used to get excited to go to work and spend my day there. The store owner was a middle-aged man, quiet, with a smile that never reached his eyes. He always stood in the corner, observing. There were no other employees, just me and him. And that was comforting at first. I thought being alone in a beautiful place was better than being in a crowded, ugly one. But I was wrong. That evening, he asked me to stay a little later. He said a new shipment of clothes would arrive and I needed to help him organize it. I hesitated, but agreed. I didn't want to seem weak during my first week. After all, what's the harm in an extra hour? The hours passed slowly, and the dim store lighting began to hurt my eyes. It was close to 9 p.m. when a strange man entered the store. I didn't hear the door. I just lifted my head from behind the sorting table and found him standing there motionless. I never heard his steps. He was tall and thin, like his body had no blood. He wore a long black coat, unnervingly clean, as if he had just stepped out of a finely painted portrait. And those glasses that hid his eyes, he didn't come closer, didn't say a word. He just stood there, staring at me. I said, "Good evening. Can I help you?" He didn't respond. His breathing was slow, deep, like the sound of an empty tube. I could see his eyes through the glasses wide open, staring at me. I felt a chill crawl down my spine. The store owner wasn't there. He had stepped out to check the car outside. I was alone with this silent being. He approached with slow, stretched out steps, as if every movement was calculated with care. He stopped in front of a mannequin wearing a red dress and stared at it for minutes. Then he looked at me and said in a soft voice that didn't match his appearance, "This one looks like you, but you're thinner." The blood froze in my veins. He smiled, then turned around and left without buying anything, without saying another word, without making a sound, as if the earth didn't know the weight of his body. I returned to my table and sat in silence, watching the glass door slowly close. My heart was beating fast, but I convinced myself I was just tired. Maybe he was just an eccentric customer, but I couldn't stop thinking about his voice, about the tone of those words that felt like a coded message. The shop owner returned 10 minutes later. I didn't say anything to him. I didn't want to appear scared. I helped him arrange the boxes, and we finished around 11 at night. The city had transformed into a different place. The sidewalks were empty, and the air was unnaturally cold, as if something was breathing with me in the dark. I locked the door, thanked the shop owner, and walked quietly toward the main street looking for a taxi. There was no one, no lights, no cars, just me and the echo of my footsteps preceding me. Then that car appeared. The taxi stopped suddenly in front of me, and the street was completely empty. Darkness filled the place. I felt something strange in the air. I felt as if the car had been waiting for me, as if it was a part of the darkness itself. Even though I was alone in the street, I was sure I needed that car, even if something about it felt off. I opened the back door and sat inside. The seat was unusually warm and had a strange feeling. The air in the car was suffocating, as if it had been sealed for a long time. But the driver didn't look at me. He simply began to drive slowly. Long minutes of silence passed until he finally spoke in a strange, low, and frightening voice. "Do you know that some passengers disappear?" I felt my heartbeat quicken, but I tried to stay composed. I asked him in a low voice, "What do you mean?" He didn't respond immediately, but after a moment, he continued, "Yes, some passengers disappear. We may take them on this road, and they never return. Some we keep for a long time, and others, we end their lives in a faraway place." He went quiet for a while, and I couldn't move. I kept recalling the driver's words, unable to shake them from my mind. They echoed in my head like a haunting refrain. Was this a threat, or was he telling me a horrifying truth? His eyes weren't looking at me. He was focused on the road, but he seemed very calm, as if what he said was completely normal to him. Then, the sound began in the back of the car. It was faint at first, like someone struggling to breathe, then it grew louder. There was someone else in the car. I felt the blood freeze in my veins. The sound was muffled, like a whisper. "Please, help me. I'm here." My breath stopped. The voice was very close. I instinctively looked toward the mirror, but I couldn't see anything in the thick darkness inside the car. Everything was foggy, mysterious, surrounding me with something unseen. But the sound was real, and it was growing clearer. I turned toward him in terror. I couldn't move my lips or even breathe. I was in shock. I looked at the driver in the mirror, but he didn't look at me. His eyes were fixed, unmoving. I felt I understood something. He knew I heard the voice. He knew I realized he had kidnapped someone else. So what did that mean? Was I going to be next? Suddenly, I felt the driver's hand move under the front seat, as if he were grabbing something metallic, something dangerous. Then I heard him say in a low voice, "Now you know. What are we going to do about that?" I was trembling in my seat, and at that moment, I realized Dai was never in a safe place. And while I was paralyzed with fear, I discovered something else. The door was completely locked. The driver had locked everything. He knew exactly how to trap me. At that moment, the car suddenly accelerated. It was speeding now, and I was starting to panic. My hand instinctively moved toward the door. I tried to open it, but it was useless. The driver noticed and grabbed the handle with a strong hand, pressing it firmly. "Don't even think about escaping." There was no time. My lungs began to tighten, and the darkness grew thicker. My eyes were scanning everything, while my body clung to a faint hope. Finally, when the driver felt he had cornered me and assumed I wouldn't try to escape, he unlocked the doors. In that instant, I opened the door quickly and jumped out of the car. Asterisk, asterisk. I jumped out, forcefully, hit the ground hard, fell once, then rolled over the asphalt. I felt like my body was shattered, but I felt a small rush of freedom. I was running in the dark street, tears in my eyes, thinking about where to run, where to hide. Then, the car suddenly stopped, and I realized the driver hadn't given up. The headlights lit up my path, and then, he started chasing me. The taxi suddenly stopped in front of me, and the street was completely empty, filled with darkness. I felt something strange in the air, as if the car had been waiting for me, as if it was part of the darkness itself. Even though I was alone in the street, I was sure I needed that car. Even though something didn't feel right, I opened the back door and sat inside. The seat was unusually warm, and the air inside the car was suffocating, as if it had been sealed for a long time. But the driver didn't look at me. He just started driving slowly. Long minutes of silence passed, until he spoke in a strange, low, and frightening voice. "Do you know that some passengers disappear?" My heartbeat quickened, but I tried to stay calm. I asked him in a low voice, "What do you mean?" He didn't respond immediately, but after a moment, he continued, "Yes, some passengers disappear. We may take them on this road, and they never return. Some we keep for a long time, and others we end their lives in a faraway place." I stayed silent, unable to move. The driver's words kept echoing in my head like a haunting refrain. Was it a threat, or was he revealing a terrifying truth? His eyes didn't look at me. He was focused solely on the road. Yet he seemed so calm, as if what he had said was entirely normal. Then, the sound began in the back of the car. It was faint at first, like someone struggling to breathe. Then it grew clearer. There was someone else in the car. I felt the blood freeze in my veins. The sound was muffled, as if whispering, "Please, help me. I'm here." My breath stopped. The voice was very close. I found myself turning my eyes to the mirror, but I couldn't see anything through the thick darkness inside the car. Everything was hazy, mysterious. Surrounding me was something invisibly, yet the sound was real, and it was growing louder. I turned to him in terror. I couldn't move my lips, couldn't even breathe. I was in shock. I looked at the driver through the mirror, but he didn't look back. His eyes were fixed, unmoving. I felt like I understood something. He knew I heard the voice. He knew I had realized he had kidnapped someone else. What did that mean? Was I next? Suddenly, I felt the driver's hand move under the front seat, as if he were grabbing something metallic, something dangerous. Then I heard him say in a low voice, "Now you know. What should we do about that?" I was trembling in place, and at that moment, I realized I was never safe. And while I was paralyzed with fear, I discovered something else. The door was completely locked. The driver had locked everything. He knew exactly how to trap me. At that moment, the car suddenly accelerated. It was speeding now, and I was beginning to panic. My hand instinctively moved toward the door. I tried to open it, but it was useless. The driver noticed, grabbed the handle with a strong grip, and pressed down hard. "Don't even think about escaping." There was no time. My lungs began to tighten, and the darkness grew thicker. My eyes scanned everything, while my body clung to a faint hope. Finally, when the driver felt he had cornered me, he unlocked the door. I immediately opened it and jumped out quickly. I leaped from the car with force, hit the ground hard, fell once, then rolled along the asphalt. I felt like my body had shattered. Then, the car suddenly stopped. It turned slowly, aiming its headlights directly at me. There was no doubt he could see me. Without any warning, he started driving toward me at insane speed. I tried to dodge and jumped to the side of the road again, but this time my face slammed into a wall and I tasted blood in my mouth. He turned around again and came back for me. He wasn't just driving, he was hunting me. He began chasing me as I ran with everything I had, my steps stumbling, my heart about to explode, and the engine's roar getting closer, closer, and even closer. The street was no longer safe. Even the open windows started to make me uneasy. I entered a narrow alley, and he followed me without hesitation. He stopped the car suddenly, then opened the door slowly, as if he feared nothing, as if he knew I wouldn't leave this place alive. I hid behind a rusty trash bin, my breath ragged, my heart screaming from fear. I tried to silence my breathing and curled into myself like I wanted to disappear completely. His footsteps began to approach, slow, deliberate. Each step felt like it crushed the earth. He moved without urgency, as if savoring the scent of fear, scanning the corners, the shadows, behind the boxes, observing everything. I heard his voice for the first time. He wasn't speaking, but whispering words I couldn't understand, like a distorted song or a sick hum, slipping into my ears and making my body tremble even more. He got closer. Suddenly, he stopped. There was less than 2 meters between us. He turned his head slowly toward my hiding spot. I felt like he saw me, like our eyes met, but he didn't move forward. He just stood there, for long, unbearable moments. Then, he exhaled loudly and turned away. He went back to the car, got in and slammed the door, then sped off quickly, leaving behind the echo of the engine and my shattered heart. I didn't move. I stayed there, sitting on the cold ground, trembling, trying only to believe that I was still alive. After minutes, I don't know how many, I stood up. I walked alone through the alleys, dragging my exhausted steps, my vision blurred, my clothes dirty, my heart heavy. With every street I crossed, I looked behind me, as if I could still hear his footsteps. I got home just before dawn. I opened the door quietly, made no sound, and tiptoed up to my room. My mother was asleep, and I didn't tell her anything. I sat on my bed, trembling, staring into the darkness, feeling like I hadn't really survived, because that car still chases me, even after it disappeared. That night was horrifying, and it still haunts me. I see him in my sleep, every time, standing there, in the corner of my dream, not moving, not speaking, just staring. And sometimes, it's not a dream. I wake up terrified, my eyes opening to the faint light sneaking through my window, and I see him. I don't know if it's just hallucinations. I move to another job at a company. Sometimes, during work, I imagine I see his face among my co-workers. The same lifeless eyes, the same long, extended stare. I blink and he vanishes, but the feeling remains, as if I'm still trapped in that car. I've grown to hate mirrors because they show what I don't want to see, and I walk quickly through lit places, running from shadows before they think of touching me. Fear is now a part of me, living inside me, just like my shadow. And I'm not sure if it's all just illusions, or if he's still out there, somewhere, watching me silently, just waiting for another moment. Not everyone who offers you a ride wants to take you to your destination. Maybe they want to take you to theirs. Sometimes, what we survive never really lets us go.